welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Here in Mendham, I guess. I'll stick with that for now. So, a video response of sorts, and some people, complain, well, they probably will complain about this video. Yeah, I didn't fix the camera yet, and I got an infected tooth or something, so it's probably best to be in the dark. But anyway, but they complain that they think there's no value in having these conversations with crazy people. But they're all crazy, so it doesn't really matter. So there's this weird conversation between Hasalede, Piero, and me. And me and Piero don't communicate, but it's just me communicating with Hasalede versus Piero. And it's just kind of ironic because, I'm obviously man in the middle in this case, in the sense that Piero is this, silly mush where everything's conscious and everything matters. And so then nothing matters, right? Because you start creating equalities between, humans and parameciums or something. Just silly nonsense. And then you have Hasalede on the other extreme where nothing matters, and therefore you could just torture everything forever, and it wouldn't make any difference because consciousness isn't a real thing, because it doesn't really happen, because he says so. Not because there's any reason to believe that. So anyway, so there's just obviously the two opposites over there, and I'm saying, no, there's a truth in the middle. And the middle truth is that there's lots of organisms that feel. They have experiences of sensation. And those sensations are, by design, by evolutionary design, intended to create an agenda. They're intended to motivate, to give things broad goals, like hunger, thirst, urgencies of different ways, protect your physical body or it will hurt very much if you allow it to be damaged. So it's real incentives to do certain things. It's a mechanism of incentive. It's reward and punishment. And the punishment is real. The reward is real. The whipping is real. Removing the whip is real. Putting the handcuffs on and tearing the skin, the pain is real. The relief of having your freedom restored is real. And no way around that. And that happens for all organisms that have developed enough brains to create this theater that we experience. And it's clearly correlated to a physical function. It clearly is a function of the brain, and no reason to say it isn't a real thing, because we really experience it. We're experiencing it. Hard to say it's not real when you actually experience it. And Hasalede says, well, that testimony is irrelevant because that's personal testimony and no personal experience can be included in any declaration of facts, which is just absolute nonsense, because of course that's the only way you can know something is to see it, to touch it, to feel it, and we're feeling it. So it's just insane rubbish. He thinks he's doing something called reasoning, and there's no reasoning in it, because it's just a denial of where just a logical progression of facts. It's just a fact. This is what brains do. They produce this phenomenon. It's a real event, not a non-event. It's an actual event. And we actually experience it. So there's, I could say, I won't bother saying them, but there's a lot of things you can say just in the sense of this is such a dishonest philosophical perspective because, I know when challenged, if he was shown the instruments, and then we pointed to his son, said, we will use them on him. He would no longer be professing that it doesn't matter, that people's suffering doesn't matter, that animal suffering doesn't matter. He just says it because it's easy to say, not because it's true. And again, his motivation is denialism. He's just a denialist because it's really easy to avoid a kind of psychological pain if you can pretend it didn't really happen. It's obviously makes life a lot easier if you don't have to grieve over watching someone you care about suffer. It makes life a lot easier, but it's not the truth. So it's sort of an important subject. I find it important in a secondary reasoning, where I would agree with Hothloday that how we assign value, that is, what causes us to feel, is 99% bullshit. That those assignments are, generally speaking, culturally imposed. If somebody takes a poo on the Quran, and some Muslim gets all hysterical and starts crying and oh my God, what a desecration! Something valuable, something meaningful happened. No, nothing meaningful happened. It's just silly bullshit. So he's all this grief and woe for nothing, over nothing. So our triggers can be silly, a lot of them. And those are the triggers that mostly run society. But, some of the triggers are quite obvious. I don't think there's a person on earth, really, you could find who has their natural teeth, and I could sit there and just drill holes in their teeth, and they would say, fine, knock yourself out. It would obviously be a meaningfully negative experience for them, something to be avoided passionately. And not for some knee-jerk reaction reason, but because it's a punishment, because it's actually going to be bad. The experience will be a bad experience, decidedly negative. So a lot of our sensations are common. Our triggers are common. So we do have some common triggers. I wouldn't again argue that those triggers are necessarily rational. They're just the way they are by nature. And the point isn't what triggers the gun. The point is the gun goes off and the bullet flies. And the real subject is what's really the meaningful part. I would say it's the flying bullet. It's the end result of whatever triggers anything. The end product is either there's a brain being tormented or a brain not being tormented. It doesn't really matter what the cause of the torment is. It just matters that the torment is bad and it should be prevented in all cases. It would be quite good if we could reform prisoners by just pressing a reform button. And they're fixed. And we don't have to punish anybody. That'd be really nice. But it doesn't work that way. And also doesn't work as a deterrent. If, you can commit a crime and just be reformed by pressing a button and there's no punishment needed, then it's not going to discourage people from being criminals. So again, this reward and punishment is fundamental to our function. And again, it works, as I pointed out previously, and Hoffley continues to ignore, is that it clearly works as a mechanism. It's the reason why we are intelligent, because we are rewarded and punished for getting right answers and wrong answers. You have to navigate the world, and you have to navigate the real world. Real facts are helpful. Bullshit isn't. Because the traps are real, the punishments are real. Just a fact. So, I would like to get into the discussion of the arbitrariness of what we place value on, the institutions, culture, all the mechanisms of our politics and the rest of it that make people such assholes, because that is all crap. The superficial bullshit. The unreasoned approaches to system design, maximizing efficiency, and how poorly we do that, because we really don't socially engineer. We just allow a kind of chaos to decide what the end result will be, and the end result ends up being pretty sloppy. A few bad apples, knock over the cart kind of thing. Rot the rest of the apples, ruin the pie, whatever you want to look at it, because the system doesn't have any defenses against bad apples, bad players. Alright, so I don't know if there's much else to preface. So Hothloday keeps using this word arbitrary. Okay, demonstrate all your evaluations and purposes are arbitrary declarations, involve arbitrary line drawing, which support no useful insight. So he's saying that when I point out that when I say, well, let's just start with the fact there's space and there's things, the things are involved in events, and the events have function in terms of an end result, a byproduct. And then so let's just start from there, and you say, what is the universe doing? You look at it. What sticks out? What's complicated? I mean, clearly consciousness sticks out. It's clearly a bizarre phenomenon. Clearly connected to a brain. Brains make it. Clearly, evidence, decidedly, voluminous evidence that brains cause the effect, and that you can do subtle damage to brains and fuck up the instrument entirely. The consciousness can be distorted and it can be annihilated. So clearly a brain function, not any. I never use the word mind, and he uses the word mind later in here, like I'm talking about minds. It's just part of his lying. So he can't even do the paraphrasing in any honest way. So anyway, this word arbitrary, though, it's a silly word to use in this context. I mean, clearly, let's see, I probably can load a quick definition here. In mathematics, of a constant or other quality of unspecified value. Well, clearly I'm specifying a value, and I'm specifying it based on personal experience, and that's all I can do. As pointed out, if there was an intelligence in the universe, and it was a super intelligence, knew everything about everything that was going on, except it had no idea what a feeling was, it would be the dumbest thing in the universe still. It'd be missing the most important event in the universe, in my opinion, quite obviously. The only thing to take notice of. There's nothing else that has meaning except for conscious experience. And it's quite obvious to anybody who's been conscious that, yeah, this matters a lot more than, I don't know, what my fingernail's made out of. Who cares? Consciousness is a whole level separate from material functions in terms of being outstanding in what it creates, the phenomenon itself. So, and then the real definition is based on random choice or personal whim. So, again, it's clearly not a personal whim that I can tell the difference between a nail in the eye and eating a cupcake. How can you call that a personal whim? The fact that I say I'd rather never be tortured and I would like to be pleasured, I mean, it's not whimsical in any way whatsoever. It's perfectly rational. Explain to me how it would be rational for me to say the opposite. How that could make any sense ever. It would be impossible for that ever to make sense to anybody who's experienced the difference between a nail in their eye and a cupcake. So it's just, or anything like a nail in the eye. It's insanely just a complete failure in the use of vocabulary to sit there and think you can get away with using the word arbitrary to describe the fact that I've recognized consciousness as a real event, and I've recognized that it does two things, pain and pleasure, and that those two things have decidedly different impact. I mean, how is that a random choice? I didn't randomly choose that drilling holes in my teeth would be painful. I didn't randomly choose that being relieved from some burden would be pleasurable. I don't randomly choose the sensation. So the sensations are clearly associated with physiological mechanisms and clearly for the purpose of reward and punishment. And the punishment is real and the reward is real as a sensation. So it's just such a lie to sit there and try to imply any arbitrariness, any randomness or whimsy in recognizing consciousness as an event and recognizing the decidedly substantial qualitative difference between the extremes of your feelings. it's such an abuse of vocabulary. I mean, I would have him shot just for that. I mean, nobody should be able to abuse a word that badly. Just disgusting. The depths of dishonesty that he will reduce himself to make this inane argument. So again, clearly this is a very minority opinion, this neo-nihilism, but you can see a lot of its tentacles reaching into the world, where people make themselves more important than others. They make themselves more important than other feeling mammals on this planet. They do all kinds of self-interested perversions and violate the truth just overtly, and violate reason overtly in coming up with vacuous reasoning to make their own welfare more important. So anyway, let's play the crap.
When I meet people like inmendham and rep science, there is kind of, I see errors in what I think is errors in reasoning. And so I have...
Again, there's no reasoning errors here. Like I said, we don't have any disagreement except one disagreement. He doesn't think there's any such thing as value, that the universe can't make it, that brains can't make it, that consciousness is just a meaningless event, and that there is no qualia, there is no difference between suffering and pleasure. That's the difference. And he's sitting there trying to pretend that I've made a reasoning error somehow because I've personally experienced it, I'm experiencing it, and he's expecting me to deny its existence. I'm personally experiencing it, he's expecting me to deny its existence, and then says I've made a reasoning error. Where did my reasoning go wrong, lunatic? How did I miscalculate? And again, he pretends that he doesn't know the difference. He can't see any difference between a nail in his eye and a cupcake. And he pretends that he's willing to be tortured forever, or to have his son tortured forever. What a pile of crap. You know, if we could make that real, I mean, you know, if I was king, that's what we'd be doing right now. We'd be showing him the instruments. And we'd be saying, go ahead, talk your shit. Insult every bit of suffering that's ever taken place on planet Earth. Go ahead and insult that. All right? By saying it didn't happen. That real prices weren't paid. Go ahead, insult all of those sad stories. All of those tragic figures. Go ahead and insult them. All right? And look at those fucking instruments. Because, yeah, that's what you're going to get, fucker. That's going to be your reward for being a preposterous liar.
The purpose to demonstrate, in particular for inmendham, that his valuations...
Again, his valuations are acknowledging the existence of positive and negative sensations. Decidedly bad sensations and decidedly not bad sensations. That's my crime. And
beyond for, well, even for Pyro, to a sense, it's just not, such language isn't used. But both of...
Yeah, well, Piro doesn't think there's one reality. He thinks individuals can make up their own bullshit. You know, so obviously that's a whole pile of crap. Where the whole point of reasoning is to add up the facts and see where they point. I've said that overtly. Now, where did I add up? Show me where I added a fact wrong. You haven't shown that yet, in any respect whatsoever, how I'm adding a fact wrong. You're just saying the fact that I'm personally conscious is disqualified. I can't testify to what I've personally experienced, which is just absolute bullshit, because the only way consciousness can be known is by being experienced. You can't know it any other way. We can actually take MRIs and do things now where we can actually see somebody suffering. You know, we can see the difference between a brain tormented and a brain relaxed. We can actually see the difference. But seeing those pictures wouldn't tell me anything if I never felt the feelings. If I never had the conscious sensations, those pictures would just be, oh, so what? It's purple. Ooh, you have purple in your brain. Ooh, ooh, ooh. It wouldn't mean anything. You have to know it to know it. You have to experience it to know it. You can't know consciousness any other way.
Your values and purposes.
Again, my purposes are clear. My purposes is to describe reality. You're saying an accurate description of reality is that consciousness is irrelevant, doesn't mean a damn thing in terms of what it creates in terms of sensations. You might as well have torture everywhere and never have a pleasant moment ever, and it would be just as good as pleasure all the time and torture never. The two are the same universe. Same. So you're arguing that tormented sensations are the same as comfortable sensations, and they're not. Clearly not.
Arbitrary declarations.
So again, just a bullshit word to use. There's absolutely no excuse for using the word. It's clearly not arbitrary. It's neither whimsical or random. I'm clearly conscious. I'm clearly experiencing it. There's clearly nothing random about the difference between a cupcake and a nail in my eye. Nothing random or whimsical in the declaration that those are two very different things. And their difference is quality. One has a negative quality and one has a positive quality.
I mean to state this and show it.
You won't ever show anything. You have no argument except catch-22. You're not allowed to personally testify to what you know.
And that they involve arbitrary line drawing.
So again, using the word again, right? Is there anything about it that's arbitrary? Where did I commit the arbitrary random? Where did I randomly assign drilling holes in my teeth a negative quality and orgasm a positive? When did I do that? Where is that a whimsy or a random? It's just a silly statement.
That support no useful insights.
So again, it's not about an insight, it's about a fact, frankly. I mean, insight is just kind of a useless kind of terminology here. We're just trying to collect facts, and your clear fact is there can be no value in the universe, therefore nothing matters. And my fact is the universe clearly has created a concept in a reality, in the sense that it's correlated to a mechanical function. It's a real event. It happens to the sensate organism. Game over. It's in the universe. Like it or not, it's here.
And to this end, I mean to scrutinize all your assumptions for arbitrary.
Again, there's no all my assumptions. Again, what's this? There's no assumptions. I'm just testifying to what I experience. Go ahead and tell me how my experiences are lying. Tell me how the experience didn't happen. Tell me that somehow you're going to beg credulity and tell me you're just being nonsensical to think there's a difference between being tortured and being pleasured. No, I don't think I'm being nonsensical. I don't think you've demonstrated anything close to how that's a nonsense.
Very nice. Duplicate after that. And I mean to scrutinize all your conclusions for
no, again, more of this nonsense. Isn't all my conclusions? Where's all the conclusions? There's one fact in disagreement. You say feelings have no value. I say feelings have value. That's it. There is no other conclusions that matter in this conversation.
But I also mean to have mine scrutinized also.
You don't have any, so there's nothing to scrutinize. So how can I scrutinize the non-reasoning of a flat-out denial of something that's frickin' happening? So you're flatly denying what I'm personally experiencing. You're denying that what I feel is a real event, and that whatever this consciousness does, it can clearly tell the difference between negative and positive. It clearly can do it. It clearly measures it. It detects it. It creates it in clear fact. Okay, it's not even a detector of positive and negative. It just makes it. And it made it for what purpose? Again, as pointed out, evolution needed the purpose. It needed reward and punishment to create sophistication in behavior. You can't have sophisticated behavior without it.
I mean to have the purpose of establishing distinctions between abstract questions and idea scrutiny and between scientific questions about that.
Again, so that's just more gibberish. So you're just denying. One of my starting points is there's no such thing as any distinctions. There's no such thing as scientific questions versus bullshit abstract questions. There's no fucking such thing. There's descriptions of reality. You either accurately describe reality or inaccurately describe reality, and that's it. All right? And that's science. Period. End of the story. Science is in a subcategory of philosophy. Philosophy is a subcategory of science. The facts point. You collect facts and you go where the facts lead. Facts create the resolution, the dots of resolution. And all you're trying to do is resolve with as few facts as possible a complex picture.
That pose questions of measurement and things we can actually check in reality for the truth.
Yeah, well, you don't do any of that fact checking. Again, you don't play my videos. You just misparaphrase me and slander me with bullshit, insanely idiotic abuses of vocabulary.
Value. Again, it's tongue-in-cheek in a way. This antagonism I stoke, but I write.
Yeah. Well, whatever. You know. I can't take it as tongue-in-cheek, see, because you don't understand how they're... apparently you can't understand that if you're wrong, okay? So just imagine for a moment that you're wrong and value really exists. Well, then you would understand that what you're basically endorsing is a reckless horror where value is ignored and there's no possibility that value gets preserved or efficiency can happen, and only waste happens, right? So you know that if somebody doesn't realize the difference between glass diamonds and real diamonds or something, they're only going by appearance, you know, and they won't be able to sort them, and efficiently, and they'll end up destroying the value. Probably could use it. I mean, I'd rather use a sentient example, the stuffed animal versus the real animal. And if somebody can't see those distinctions, can't see those differences, you could understand how that would be a horror if we're correct, that value really exists. So you should understand why I have contempt and that you have violated the most important thing, the most important fact has been violated by you. You're worse than Hitler as a mind. His mind had more hope than yours. Your starting point is so bad. Hitler was just a bigot and a little bit of ignorant man who, because a few Jews were nasty, he decided all Jews were nasty. Stupid little mistake compared to your colossal mistake.
In short, I want to show you guys have created great edifices of nonsense, yeah?
Right, so it's nonsense to recognize the difference between a cupcake and a nail in your eye. That's a nonsense. To recognize the profound difference between someone you care about dying peacefully and gracefully and dying long, hard, and tormented. That's a nonsense. Dying in a war, it's a nonsense. Yeah. Fuck you, scum.
Built upon pure arbitrariness.
Yeah, so he uses the word again, right. So it's whim. Just pure whim to imagine some guy in war in a submarine, and the submarine loses its ballast and sinks to the bottom, and there's no way to get it, they can't get it back up again, they just got to slowly suffocate. That's just arbitrary to recognize that as a bad thing.
Those are my purposes.
Willy-nilly.
Your purposes, as I see them, and therein is some of the arbitrariness.
Oh, yeah. Well, therein is part of your lying. Yeah, you see them. You can't see.
Is, in Inmendham's case, to fix the game.
No, there's no comment about fixing any game. All we're arguing about is the existence of sensation as a meaningful event in the universe. You're saying it's a meaningless event in the universe. I'm saying it's meaningful. There's no system. There's no end game. There's no conversation about fixing anything. There's just a recognition. What sticks out? Well, I'm conscious. I can tell. I'm feeling the cavern of difference between positive and negative sensations, and you're telling me that cavern doesn't exist. And I just can't see how you possibly make it go away. There's no way to make it go away. It's monstrous. That's it. That's it. Don't pretend this is about some other agenda except describing the universe and saying what's in it. Well, there's consciousnesses in it. Well, what do? Well, they feel. What do they feel? Well, they feel good and they feel bad. Well, where? Where's my violation? Which one of those isn't a fact? Shit for brain.
At the start, it is his purpose, his statement that it ought be our purpose.
So again, it's just more of this fucking bullshit misparaphrasing. At least I'm playing your video, you lying piece of shit. Why don't you have the balls to do that before you sit there and put crap in my mouth that I didn't say, fuckhead?
It's to find a system of valuation.
I didn't go looking for a system of evaluation. I just sit there and looked at the universe, and is it doing any of that? Is it creating something that could possibly matter? And I noticed, oh yeah, consciousness could possibly matter. And the more I examine it, the more I realize, yeah, it could matter a lot.
Yep. Once you admit that the problem is to find, and the purpose is to find a system of valuation, inmendham's purpose...
So again, more bullshit. There's no effort to find a system of evaluation. So it's just absolute nonsense. I merely define some facts. The brains do function. They do create consciousness. Consciousness creates sensation, and sensation is decidedly positive and negative in its manifestation. That's it. Argue those points. Don't keep lying. Liar.
Seems to be to convince you of the obviousness of his system of valuation.
No, the obviousness in the sense that I'm conscious and I'm sure everybody else is conscious, so I'm saying, well, just do the obvious thing and recognize that you can sure see the difference, the cavern of difference between me sticking a nail in your eye and giving you a cupcake, right? You know there's a value difference between those two experiences, right? Damn straight you know it.
As having some sort of primacy.
Some sort of, that's where you start, yeah. There doesn't seem to be anything else going on that's more value-rich than the conscious experience. I mean, this pen doesn't seem to be having to do anything value-meaningful. It's, its welfare stake doesn't really matter. It doesn't care whether you do this or do that. It doesn't feel differently. Can't find anything else that's doing this consciousness thing except the conscious things. So, yeah, if somebody can show me some evidence that something else is doing pain and suffering, reward and punishment, then, yeah, I'm willing to include them in the group any second, right, immediately. Just show me some evidence that something besides mammals on Earth, or a certain level of evolution upward is doing this sensation thing. Well, show me something else doing it.
And clearly, he seems to enjoy calling everybody else stupid or evil.
No, I'm just acknowledging, by simple definition. Again, if you had a little bit of imagination, I guess you're so stone-cold brain dead you can't even imagine yourself being wrong. Well, what if you are wrong? You are, in fact, worse than Adolf Hitler, aren't you? I mean, Hitler wasn't as dumb as you. Hitler loved animals, his dogs and stuff. He could care. You can't do that. You're so fundamentally broken. You can't tell the difference.
Except the obviousness.
Well, the fact is you can tell the difference, and you create some bullshit, some arbitrary bullshit philosophical nonsense reason, some social construct reason to say, oh, well, yeah, I will behave nicely towards my son because, well, I have an impulse to. You'll say some kind of horse shit, not because you recognize it would be bad if your son suffered. You won't admit the obvious truth. You're just such a liar.
In fact, that seems to be his principal way of arguing for his obviousness, is to declare others stupid.
No, you are by definition, okay, the catastrophically retarded if you've missed the difference between the glass and the diamond, the stuffed animal and the sentient animal. Yeah, you're fucking retarded, profoundly retarded. You've missed the biggest, most important fact in the universe. Which
is very regrettable at times.
Well, whatever, you deserve it. It's how am I violating reasoning? So again, you can't imagine. So there's one difference in our philosophy. I believe sensations are really happening. You don't. And you think that somehow, if you really believed sensations were happening, and you knew there was a huge cavern of difference between pleasure and torture, that somehow you would look at somebody who disregarded that value and couldn't care less, as see them as anything other than a threat to the precious. What else can they possibly be but a threat?
Pyro.
I mean, it's the bull in the china shop. I mean, the bull has no give a damn about, ooh, it's a 17th century, Ming vase or something. Bull doesn't care.
Seems to think, yes, that there is a purpose, and the purpose is to find a system, and he has the purpose to convince you of this system. I think there's more here which needs to be clarified.
I don't think there's anything. Pirro doesn't think there's a system. His system is some sort of just find some pragmatic compromise that works a little bit. That's it. There's no principles involved in his system.
As to why and what a system is, why this is, the purpose. But it seems the undertone of this purpose, really, is to convince you about his own willing capability. Yeah? Pyro likes to refrain from the use of free will, but retain the notion of willing. Now, I don't know what that notion of willing is.
It just means people make decisions. Period. They don't make choices. They make decisions. And the decisions they call their will. So what? Yeah. It's meaningless mush. But Pirro thinks there might be something spiritual in their decision making. Some kind of God done it. Or goodness triumphed. Some kind of bullshit. I don't know.
Really? I've heard him speak about it at great length. The best I can fathom is that it's something that looks and behaves a certain way, which seems not very concrete.
Yeah, well, clearly his standards of evidence suck. And so do yours. I mean, that's why you've ended up on these two wacky extremes of, nonsense. Just fucking nonsense. Retarded nonsense.
Further, it seems along these purposes that he doesn't want to be bound by logical treatment of abstract ideas. That is,
he doesn't want to be bound by the fact that there are hard, nasty facts of life, and they suck. And he doesn't like things that suck. So he tries to make them go away, just like you. He's just whitewashing the reality. Just like you.
If we take an idea away from the realms of reality to inspect it, or we even begin with an idea, and it's just in a pure abstract sense.
Yeah, and all there is in the end, okay? I mean, it's just not that complicated. All there will be in the end, after this stupid experiment finally dies, which it will, this life parasite, all there'll be is the pain and the pleasure. All there will be is the fact that things suffered and were relieved of their suffering and called it good. Okay, so all they did, all it was a mess of vomit, and it was slowly cleaned up. You know, it's a bad story of no. There will be no victory. There will be no net gain. There will just be a tragic waste of a ton of suffering.
That he wants to reserve a caveat that he may want to seek grounds to reject it. Reject the
There's no principles, so there's nothing to reject. He will just evade what the principles start pointing to. So when the facts start pointing to a hard truth that he doesn't want to hear, he'll just sit there and change the principles.
Ultimate conclusions of reason. Now, I find it somewhat obfuscating.
Yeah, I find that a little bit here too, frankly. I mean, I don't know why you just don't make separate videos, frankly. I mean, I don't like Piro's nonsense being dragged into my nonsense, frankly.
To claim as justification for this, you know, the liar's paradox. Because, yes, mathematics went through a period of controversy.
So again, he somehow thinks this is mathematics. Right? He thinks recognizing the existence of consciousness as a something is a mathematical term. It's not a mathematical term. It's just not. Even when you figure out that there is positive and negative value, again, it gets tricky. What's the value in preventing a harm? What's the value in balancing the feeling of relief when somebody takes the burden off you and the negative value of somebody putting the burden on you in the first place? It's much more complicated than just sitting and saying, oh, we're just going to do the math. And again, you can't do any of the math because you've eliminated the only thing that's mathematically relevant, which is value. How can you have mathematics without values? Square plus circle equals not a square or a circle. Oh, that's fascinating.
And confusion. But the prevailing story is it was sorted out. Mathematicians being mathematicians, they took the time and did it very rigorously. But for our purposes, we can understand that we're going to disallow propositions that are self-referential.
So again, self-referential just means, oh, I'm personally experiencing it. So again, this is this nonsense. You have to allow the testimony of witnesses. You have to allow the testimony of people who have experienced something. It's just silly to say their experience has no meaning to the event. Of course it does.
So I'll conclude this video now with a flash of the notes that I've taken about reason, or they're constructed about reason.
So just more lies, mischaracterizes, and look at him doing all this stupid number crap. Like this is something to do. Again, how do you turn this into this silly mathematical nonsense? Evolution isn't mathematics.
Some of the contentious issues, as I see them.
Let's see. There is not really an I. Yeah, well, that's already been done a long time ago. So let's see what he says for me. I know what matters because I experience it. Well, clearly. We know what matters because we experience it. I don't know why these even need to be separate statements, but fine. I prove things because I experience it. No, it's a fact. The proof is in that everybody else has the same experience. So the proof is that the facts keep corroborating themselves. I have no reason to believe other people don't experience what I have experienced. Their testimony is quite clearly the same. So why would I doubt the evidence of my own experience? It's not at all wishy-washy. It's not at all ambiguous. Again, you're claiming it's arbitrary. I'm saying there's a cavern of difference I can see between a nail in my eye and a cupcake. Okay, it's not a little difference, not tiny subtle difference. Oh, it's foggy. I can't quite tell the difference. No, there's none of that bullshit. So just more lies. I mean, you prove things by the facts and having there's no contrary fact. What's the fact disproving? Where's the fact indicating there's any reason to believe otherwise? Where's the reason to believe otherwise? Show me the reason to believe otherwise. That having a nail shoved in my eye right now would be the same as me having a cupcake right now. You just show me the reasoning that makes that rational. That gives you a viable counter-argument. There's no viable counter-argument, you insane kook. There is no free will. We are act purely as an outcome of our programs. Yeah, well, at least you got that part right. Hoffaday, let's see. There's not really a well-defined I. Okay, who cares about this I crap? So that you understand an idea I use as a placeholder only. The concept of an I, such as I don't even have the purpose or even an idea in the concretely existing sense. So again, the I thing is just a brain. I've stated that so many times. It's just a brain. We have brains. All right? And all of this crap happens in a brain. Me brain. Same as an I. And so when we use any first-person account, it is only on the basis of a pragmatic need to speak in terms you can comprehend, e.g. my purpose. Well, again, you're assigning purpose to the brain, and I'm saying, no, the brain collects facts, and it produces reward and punishment. That's its elemental functions. Everything else is an outgrowing of that elemental function. Only true I, so he's obsessed with this I crap, is capable of having a purpose. So again, this having a purpose, what the fuck? A computer can have a purpose in the sense that it can have programmings that are define its function. Why is he even using this word purpose? That is separate to the demands of physics. That can't even make sense. A purpose that is separate to the demands of physics. What are the demands of physics? What the fuck does that have to do with it? It's obviously a physical function. Even Piro's word will, it's a sort of a physical phenomenon. We make decisions. The decision is our will. Abstraction is something we do. Well, I don't even know what that even means. I mean, clearly we imagine things that don't exist. We can see things that don't exist. But we don't feel non-existent feelings. To abstract is to purposely strip away or ensure an item is devoid of all extraneous detail. More bullshit. The abstraction is said to exist in the abstract sense only. So again, he's saying our consciousness is some sort of abstraction, that it's not really caused by physical mechanisms, that it isn't really a function, which it clearly is, a function dictated by evolution. And he's basically saying it's not a real event when I'm really experiencing being conscious. So he's saying my consciousness isn't a real event. Yeah, it is. It's really happening.
But given our starting agreements, I don't think it's hopeless.
I mean, starting what agreements? You're not even agreeing on what the agenda is, which is to collect the facts and see where they point. You're saying it's a fact that consciousness doesn't exist. Where'd you get that fact from?
I remind some of the definitions that have been posed, as I see them.
So we didn't label these. Clearly, I'm saying yes, life is DNA and subject to evolutionary development. But who cares? I mean, I stated clearly, but not really useful. The word is not really useful. Only need definition of consciousness. No, you only need to recognize what functions, all right? And it's, again, the function that matters. So, yeah, it just doesn't matter what's conscious. It just matters whether it is or not. All living things are not the same. Yes, quite obviously. The word life is a pointless distinction. Yes. So why don't you refute some of these statements? Only distinction that matters is feeling. Yes, it's the only thing that can matter because it's the only thing that creates value, and it creates value for an evolutionary purpose. Consciousness is experiencing, has feelings, that's the big one, has sensations, same thing, has qualitative sense, same thing, has welfare state. Well, obviously, if the feelings are real, then the state is positive and negative, system of positive and negative. There you go, that's all there is. So you explain to me how the distinction between a cupcake and a nail in my eye isn't a positive and negative distinction. Let's see. Matters, important, valuable, weighty, has important differences. Right. Properties of consciousness, complex function, material. I don't know why it's a question mark. I've only pointed out 5 million times the brain produces it. Clearly a material object. Properties are functions. Yes, it's a function of the brain. Events, interactions. Yes, no question mark there. Properties signify differences. Well, properties describe functions, and if things have all the same function, then they'll all be in the same category. But yes, if they have different functions, then you recognize them as a different property. Property and function could probably be interchangeable words in some senses. Well, anyways, let's get to Kathade. Life, have no preference. Well, I don't know what that means. Consciousness, have no preference. So he doesn't make a distinction. He doesn't think there's anything substantially different in any noticeable way between this pen and my brain. Yeah, can't see the difference. No, nothing to see there. That which has concrete existence is subject to laws of nature and the rules of interaction and change. So you might as well just reduce everything to atoms and just say, look, there, nothing's happening. It's just atoms swirling. Properties. All properties have an explanation in terms of fundamental behavior of existent elements. Well, it doesn't have to be fundamental behavior, does it? This means all properties are emergent. So what? Intrinsic properties would be no possible explanation in terms of fundamentally existing other units. Well, clearly, that's the whole point. Complexity is different than simplicity. And complex things can do things that simple things can't. Is that not a fact? So you think it's not a fact that complex things are likely to do more functions than simple things? Well, then you're dumber than I thought. So anyway, just crap. I'll play it out.
These hard cases. I think they're applicable to both Pyro and inmendham.
I don't think so. I spend very little time worrying about any kind of hard case, in the sense that you can go back to the insects and you say, yeah, they have the rudimentary function of reward and punishment. So my standard was basically any organism that can learn likely is being rewarded and punished, because the only use they have to a biological organism is to correct bad behavior. The function is reward and punishment. So it has to be able to benefit from experience. It has to be able to learn. So if it can learn, it probably feels. And now it has a welfare stake that's worthy of consideration. Not complicated shit for brain.
That is, in seeking definitions, they have to be sure that they're happy that their definitions adequately deal with hard cases.
Yeah, I just don't think there are too many of those hard cases. I think you can find a pretty simple test for the existence of sentience,
where we might want to draw distinctions. Where I highlight question mark, that is, I'm not entirely confident that
And again, why would any of these distinctions matter? I mean, here you are sitting there worried about Pirro's distinction between these things you call a hard case when you've decided all cases are useless. There is no hard case that could possibly matter. So I don't even understand how there's any ground for you and Pirro to have a conversation at all. It's hard enough for me in the middle to have a conversation with you. How a loop-de-doo way out on the edge has a conversation with you, what's the point? You don't accept any case. How could there be a hard case when you accept no case?
I'm speaking for the individuals, or there's a question there for me to specifically pose to my interlocutors. And finally, some problem statements that I find problematic for what Pyro and Inmendham have said.
Yeah, liar. Let's see. Perceptions are an arrangement of minds. Now, I never used the word mind, so that's just a lie. Okay, it's an arrangement of a brain, fuckhead. I never said mind. So again, just more perversions of the vernacular. Instead of playing my fucking videos or quoting me accurately, you just sit there and pervert the language. Minds have consequences. Again, bullshit language. Brains, functions, has an effect. It's a function. The brain has 100 million neurons for a reason. Because it's doing something. Clearly. Yeah, I'll emphasize that. Clearly. Event of consciousness is real. Yeah, that's right. It's really happening. It's undeniable because I'm actually really doing it. So it would be fuck all insane for me to say, no, it didn't really happen. I didn't really be conscious. I mean, what the fuck? I didn't really be conscious. Properties are functions. Yes. Machines without purpose. Again, this purpose word. I don't have any use for this purpose word. None of this conversation has anything to do with any fucking purpose. Beyond recognizing the distinction between good and bad and saying, well, there's an intrinsic purpose. A sun is different from a planet. Well, that's not too hard to figure out. A nuclear bomb has a function. It has function. That's right. The pen isn't going to blow up in my, with just throw a little rock on it. It's not going to have a nuclear reaction. Oh man, amazing. We are more than an event. We are more than an event than a thing. I never said that, so that's obviously not a quote. We are more an event than a thing. Now we need a comma there. Yeah, well, I was just trying to make the description that we are mostly empty space. We are a lot of things. So clearly we're not one particular space in the universe. We're filling lots of space. And the whole thing that makes us function doesn't function in a static moment. So if you freeze a moment, there's no event. There's no function. So it's obviously an event. Okay, trillions of things have to happen before we do something interesting. Our function requires a great deal of time and a great deal of events for it to be manifested. Interactions and events, it's about all we have. Okay, not terrible. You are negating what matters. Yes, you're negating the most important fact. Consciousness is happening. Illogical to negate that which I know. Illogical to negate that which all the other humans I've ever really heard of have some conceptual knowledge of pleasure and pain, and they know they're categorically different. So anyway, fucked hard.
But as I said, I'm going to make a separate video reviewing these points.
Yeah, reviewing your fake paraphrases. Yeah. The argument's about one fact. All right? Whether or not the clear cavern of difference I'm sensing between positive and negative difference between a cupcake and a nail in the eye, whether that difference, that perception of a difference, is really happening. You claim it's not. I claim it's unavoidable as a truth.
and criticising these definitions, contentious issues, and problems.
Yeah, well, whatever. There's only one contentious issue. So again, he just keeps trying to turn this into something more complicated than it is. It's pretty fucking obvious. He says it just doesn't. He says there's no value difference. I can torture you, or I can, pleasure you, and it doesn't mean anything. No difference between the two events. If I made a universe entirely made out of torture, it would be just as good as a universe entirely made out of pleasure. I'm saying there's no way that can rationally fit in a brain who knows what sensation is. It's oxymoronic. It has no logical ground to stand on as a statement. Alright, enough of a video. So, till the next time. I'm looking at, well, yeah, that's the other camera. For the other channel. Anyway, till the next time and such.